All right, so I've got a sheet of marker paper down. So I'm looking at the objects up on the desk. And I'm saying, all right, what do I want to be in the middle? What do I want to be on the right side? All that kind of thing. Where do I want these objects to fall generally? And I'm going to take my pencil in the first pass. And I'm probably going to use a fairly hard pencil. And you're going to want to use your H or your 2H pencil for this. Okay? You're going to look up here and you're going to say, all right, there's a box in the back corner. I kind of want that to be up to the top of my drawing. I think I want that bag to kind of sit up over here. And I want the box to be over here. Now I'm stopping to look at the angles of the box because I kind of want to get that right from the get-go. I want the cup and the saucer of the box to sit up on top of it here. So I'm kind of trying to understand. Notice that the cup is a combination of an ellipse at the top and a circle or a sphere. The plate that it's sitting on is an ellipse about that big, and notice that this box is kind of in the wrong place, but I'm just kind of getting things where I want them to be. Now the pigs sort of fall off the page like that. I'm going to draw the hat up in here, I think. The front of my page. I'm going to put a vase here. I'm going to put a vase right here. I'm going to put that little tractor guy here. I'm going to measure the angle along the edge of the tractor just to start that in the right way. Get that tractor drawn in there. The wheel of that is here and the front wheel is here. And then I look at that and I say, okay, notice that the distance between the tractor wheel and the hat edge is way different. This hat edge doesn't start till clear over here. And there's a distance here. So this edge of the hat's got to come this way. I'm changing it, I'm moving it. The scale, the size of it, the distance between the pig, the foot of the pig and the hat's got to be a little more. So that hat's just got to be a little smaller up here in the front corner. And probably run off the edge of my page a little bit more. The pig, I think I'm going to make a little bigger. The end of the box, I notice, comes here to the side of the pig, which means that my cup can't sit back here. My cup's got to be like right above this vase here. And I think that vase relationship to the pig's about right. So I'm going to change this and move that cup over here. I'm going to move the end of that box because the end of that box is lining up with the edge of this cup or this vase out here, more like here. So I'm totally moving this to match what I'm seeing more. I've got an apple in here and I've got a banana coming in here, seems about right. And then I've got that bag. The bag may be soft and a lot of drapery and strangeness, but I can actually take this edge of the bag sort of falls almost straight down. This end comes out this way and this end goes off that direction. Then I've got a curve coming up here where it turns from light to shadow. There's a wrinkle coming in here. The top of the bag kind of goes off at this angle, but it actually bulges out here and then turns here. So I'm dividing it into pieces and I'm still looking at proportions. Height to width here, I might want to measure height to width as I get my proportions in here and set this all up so that my drawing looks here. Now I look at this and I say, okay, that's not right because the end of my box is here. That apple's got to come over to here and that bag's got to run off to the side. So I'm changing that whole thing and that bag's going to sit over here. Pass number 2. I'm ready. Actually, this banana wants to move over here so that that space is more like that. This little tractor guy is going to sit up like so. I think that apple needs to be over there. I've kind of got things where I want them. I've got a basic setup and I've got my composition started here on the page. I'm going to jump to the Micron pen. This is a number 5. I don't know exactly what level you guys have, but I'm going to now draw this a little bit more accurately and a little bit more precisely in as I go along. I'm going to measure those angles just a little bit more closely. I'm going to make sure that my proportions are a little bit better. I'm going to look actually at where that comes into this face. I'm going to get that ellipse drawn there. I'm going to probably draw an ellipse down in here before I look at drawing the sides of this vase in here and here. When I do those vases, it's a good chance to talk about detail versus light and shadow. So this vase right here, for instance, has some paint on it, right? Or some glazing. So maybe I want to go in and I want to draw those things in now and kind of get a start into what I'm seeing in there and do that with my pen. And then when I do my light and shadow, I'm going to draw right over top of that, ignoring it. So with the pen, lightly, I'm doing those kind of details that I'm seeing in these vases. And you'll see what happens when I go and I pass over top of that with my shadow when I get to that point. Let's get a few details drawn in here that I can show you how I'm going to work with my. Go ahead and just change things. If you put something in the wrong place or whatever, you can just take your pen and put a mark next to it where you think it should be. In actuality, drawing is a series of corrections. So things need to change all the time as you're drawing. And if you stay loose and you work in this 3-pass method, then each pass is a second chance to get it more right, actually. So I'm not going to worry whether this is perfect or not at any point, because I'm not perfect, but I'm not going to worry too much about it anyway until I get down to my final marker pass, and each pass should be getting closer and closer to fine as I move along in terms of my drawing. So I'm just taking the ink here and I'm sort of drawing these things in as I go and getting a sense of what I want to draw and where they're going to sit. And I'm going in a little bit more into detail here. But certainly not a finished drawing. This is still very sketchy. I'm drawing the shadow in front of the banana, so part of my line has to do with the object itself. Part of it is shadow blocking, so understanding, for instance, that there's a shadow that goes all the way across the table from this thing, and then this shadow joins it and comes out over here. That this shadow for the truck comes out like this. There's a shadow for the pig coming along there. But since I'm working on shadow, maybe I want to put this away and get into my markers. I'm going to take my 30, my 50, and my 70. So I basically want to start the same way that I did in shading the forms. And I want to take my 30% and I want to do what I call shadow blocking. All right. So if I look at that pig and I see that there's a shadow coming right down here through its face, I'm basically going to block that shadow right in there. There's a shadow coming around the side of the nose. All of this then I can go in contouring and cross contouring and basically draw in the side of that pig. There's a cast shadow on the table. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I could go in and just block that in if I wanted to, but I'm going to say that that's going to be done probably up in the 70, right? Since I'm going 30, 50, 70. So right now I'm just kind of going on the objects themselves and I'm blocking in shadows where I see them coming across. This cup has a shadow coming down this way. It has a shadow on the inside of it coming across here. This whole handle is in shadow. All of this stuff back here, this entire box is shaded. There's a shadow that's casting here onto the plate. There's a shadow underneath the plate. This entire side of the box is in shadow. So maybe it's time to just really block that in and start working my markers across this way and then up and down this way to get that whole thing blocked in at that 30%, right? Maybe I want to chip into the edge of my pig's face to sort of separate the lightness of the pig from the shadow along the box. This vase here, there's a shadow moving right down through the middle there. This vase, there's a shadow moving right down through here. So I'm ignoring all those details that I drew on it. I'm basically just blocking in the shadow like this. I feel like my 30% is dying. It's not making a very dark mark. It may be because I have this like really absorbent sheet underneath too, and I need to put the thing under there. The hat has a shadow moving right through here. This whole wheel is in shadow. This side of the truck is in shadow. And on with that. Then I'm going to jump to my 50%. And I know that the shadow core lies at the line where it turns from light to shadow. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get a 50. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get a 50. I'm going to come along here and I'm going to get a 50%. And I'm going to go 50% right along the edges of these things where they turn into shadow. Right? So then I can go back to my 30 and I can smooth that edge out, right? And I've got the difference now between core and reflected. When it's time, I'm ready to go to cast. So I'm going to take my 70% and start throwing some shadows down here on the page. Now here I want to be a little bit more careful about my edges and say this is the line that I really want to use. And maybe firm up some of these edges, like the edge of the pig. What do I really want that to look like as it goes into the shadow and off the page? There's a shadow up under here I'm seeing. I want to be really clear about that. This shadow here is pretty important as it comes down onto the saucer. See that that's cast. The shadow under here, I want to be nice and dark. This shadow here is cast shadow. I think I'm going to go really dark up in there. And then I can turn the point of this around and I can say, well, there's a really dark shadow in here, let's say, right? I want to get this cup handle doing what I see it doing. So I see a dark shadow there, and there's a dark shadow there. Seems to be quite dark as it comes along this edge of the cup. So now I'm getting into some linear aspects. Nice shadow coming up along that pig's ear, here and here. Maybe I should be doing that with 50 first. Doesn't matter. I can take this 50 and I can blend that in if I want or need to. If I feel like I go too far with it, then I just go a little bit darker along the table or something like that. So if I go too far with my 50s along the edge here or something, or if I can't get what I want out of that 50, then I might push it all the way to the darkest dark, right? Seems to be some nice darks coming up. I'm going to take my 70% and I'm going to take the edge of the table back there that I see going off this way into the corner of the room. And I'm going to put these shadows actually cast up on the wall that I'm seeing back there. Just to give me some contrast within the environment, right? When I get over to this bag, the handles casting shadows on the table, the lines of the edge of the bag, where it moves from light to shadow, I'm going to want to have a 50% line between the light side of the bag and the dark side of the bag. I'm going to take my 30% probably over in here, regardless of the fact that the bag is actually teal blue. I'm not going to worry about the darkness of it and the lightness of it. I'm going to draw everything this week as if it had no color. And I'm basically just going to get this in shadow blocking light and dark. If at the end of my drawing, I want to come in and say, or I don't want to differentiate between the light blue here and the dark, or the dark blue here and the lighter yellow on the bottom or something like that, then I can go to a 70, 90, 100 kind of thing in this area where I go in with my really heavy guns and put some really dark darks, you know, in certain areas to pull those kind of places out when I want to have some line. And when I get down to like the end of my drawing and I say I want to do something like that, if that's too dark, then I'm going to say, well, that's a 90. I actually wanted to have everything be like 50 or darker. So I'm going to come back to my 50 just to soften that edge a little bit and to make this look a little more like I wanted it to, and go ahead and work that kind of thing in there, like so. All right, so I want you to have a go with your markers this week. I want you to play with this 3-pass method. You're going to basically do 3 passes, and if your last pass is your marker drawing, then you're probably going to do about 3 passes of that with light and dark and even darker.